In the last class, we were trying to talk about, we started talking about, in fact, what is called as compass surveying. And we said, okay, in the case of compass surveying, the principle which is involved behind this compass surveying is nothing but traverse. So when you are trying to talk about carrying out a traverse, so in that case of carrying out a traverse, we are going to measure the linear measurements of various survey lines, and as well as we are going to measure the angles what individual lines in that particular traverse are making with each other. Okay, so those angles we said we can measure with different instruments, but however in this particular topic we are going to be dealing with what is called as a compass. It's a simple instrument with the help of which you can try to determine how much is the angle that each particular line is making with reference to what is called as your meridian. Okay, to be specific, we are going to be talking about what is called as a magnetic meridian. So in the case of magnetic meridian, the so-called angle what we are going to be measuring is measured with respect to the reference what is called as your magnetic north. Okay, so with that direction as reference, you are going to measure how much angle each of that particular line is making. So at your particular survey station where you have placed your compass. Okay, that's what we started talking about. So in the discussion, we said we are going to be objectively coming across with different types of meridians. We said true meridian, magnetic meridian, grid meridian, arbitrary meridian, and subsequently we said, okay, the angles which are measured with respect to those particular meridian, like say if the angle is measured with respect to the reference taken as true meridian, then that angle, or rather we call it as bearing. Okay, that bearing we call it as your true bearing. If the reference is my magnetic meridian, the respective bearing is what we call it as your magnetic bearing. If the reference is your arbitrary meridian, then the reference, the angle what we are measuring there, or the bearing what we are measuring there, is nothing but we call it as arbitrary bearing. So that's what we have talked in our last class. So now let's continue our discussion from where we have stopped. So in the case of compass surveying, why do we particularly go for compass surveying? Already in the last class or in the last couple of classes, we have talked in detail, like why are we going for simple chain and tape in order to carry out your surveying. So whatever the job that we are going to do in the case of your compass surveying, still that can also be done with the simple chain and tape. But we said in the case of a large network where you have more number of obstructions, because of which you cannot take up what is called as your triangulation for that large area. So in such case, carrying out your surveying would slightly become difficult only with the help of your chain and tape. So there we said, as you cannot go on for having what is called as a triangulation process because of various obstructions that are coming in the process of carrying out your measurements. So there we said we can go on for what is called a simple traverse, which could be either closed in nature or which could be either open in nature. And then we went on to say, okay, that's the reason where you cannot go on for what is called as a chain or a tape surveying simple instruments. So in such case, you can prefer to go for what is called as your compass surveying. But however, when you are going for your chain and tape, the time involved is relatively more because the number of linear measurements what you are required to be taking, so would also be relatively high there. So that's the reason if you can simply go ahead with your compass surveying, where you can try to minimize your time, and you can also eliminate those obstructions whatever you are required to face in case if you are dealing with your chain or tape surveying. Chain surveying can be done when the area to be surveyed is comparatively small and is fairly flat. So in the case when you are trying to deal with your chain or tape surveying, so what you will be looking at is whether the area is relatively small or whether it is a bigger area. If it is a bigger area, we try to avoid the usage of chain and tape for carrying out the complete survey, because if the area is more, number of times you have to stretch your chain or tape in different directions is going to be more. So it's time consuming, and possibility of committing errors would also be more. And we try to restrict our usage of chain or tape survey in the case if the ground is only flat. If it is undulated, because we know whenever the ground is undulated, you are required to go for certain corrections. Or rather, if you don't want to apply corrections, then you have to pull your chain or tape firmly in the horizontal direction to take the measurements between 2 points. So it is relatively a tedious process in carrying out. But when the area is large, undulated, and crowded with many details, so in such case, your triangulation process is not going to be very possible. That means your chain surveying is not going to be possible. So in such an area, the method of traversing is what is adopted. So in traversing, whenever we are trying to talk about traversing, what do we basically have in that particular traversing process? So traversing is nothing but it's once again a control network, or it's basically called as a framework, which is containing some survey stations and some survey lines. Okay. So in traversing, the framework what we are trying to talk about, or the control network what we are trying to talk about, consists of number of connected lines. Okay. So once we say number of connected lines are forming that particular traverse, the lengths of all those lines are measured with a simple chain and tape again, but the direction at which each and every individual line is existing from some reference we'll try to measure, and that direction is what we are calling it as bearing. And if those bearings are measured with respect to what is called as your magnetic meridian as reference, we call those bearings as your magnetic bearings. Okay, so in one of the methods, okay, we said angles can be measured by different instruments or different methods. Okay, but one of such method is with the help of your compass. So hence, in compass surveying, directions of survey lines are determined with the help of a compass. We will come across with broadly two different types of compass, which we'll try to introduce. One is prismatic compass and the other is surveyor's compass. So irrespective whether you use a prismatic compass or surveyor's compass, your output, that's nothing but the bearing what you are required to be measuring between, the angle what you want to measure between two lines would come out to be the same, irrespective which compass you will be using. Just only there would be some slight differences between the way how we take the readings in one compass to that of the other compass, but otherwise values what you get, measurements what you get, all that would remain the same. And the length of angles are measured with the help of the compass, and the length of the lines are measured with a tape or a chain, and this process is what is called as your compass traversing. So with the help of compass instrument, you are completing your traversing process. So already we have talked about, this is nothing but what is called as a closed traverse. This is what is called as your open traverse. In the last class we have discussed what do we mean by what is a closed traverse and an open traverse. And as discussed already, the principle behind this compass surveying is nothing but we call it as traversing. Traversing is said to be the principle of compass surveying. So by carrying out the traverse, by moving from one station to another station, that station to another station, that station to another station, we carry out the measurements of all that particular data, whatever we wanted to collect from the field. Okay, so that process is what is called as your traversing. Okay, so which involves a series of connected lines for which you are measuring what is called as your magnetic bearings of those lines with the help of either your prismatic compass, or it could be with the help of your surveyor's compass. So I mentioned here as only prismatic, but even with your surveyor's compass also, you are going to be measuring the same. And the distances, as like I mentioned, we are going to measure with a simple chain or tape. So such survey does not require the formulation of network of triangles. So whenever you are talking about traversing, so you don't look at building up your triangulation between stations. Okay. So compass surveying is recommended when the area is large, undulated, and crowded with many details. Compass surveying is not recommended for areas where local attraction is suspected due to the presence of magnetic substances. Okay, magnetic substances could be like, it could be your steel or steel structures existing nearby, or any iron ore existing nearby, electrical cables which has got that magnetic field. Okay, so various things, any object which has got the effect of magnetism, all such objects, if they are nearby that particular compass or the compass instrument which we are using for measuring the bearings, so those measured bearings or those measured angles may not be accurate because of an error, what we call it as local attraction. What do we mean by this local attraction? Because when you look at a compass, what does that compass basically contain? The heart of the compass is nothing but your magnetic needle. Okay, so what is the magnetic needle representing? Magnetic needle is representing the direction of your magnetic north and magnetic south. Okay, so now when you have your magnetic needle which has got the effect of its magnetism, when you have any other objects which can attract this those objects which can get attracted towards your needle because of the effect of your earth's magnetism, okay, because of that magnetic flux what is existing between those two materials. So your needle, which was supposed to be exactly orienting towards your magnetic north, may not exactly orient towards your magnetic north, where you might have some deviation in the position of your orientation of the magnetic needle. Okay, so that kind of error what you are coming across with reference to the deviation of your magnetic needle, so that error is what we are calling it as local attraction. So our objective is to understand whether we have got any local attraction with respect to the measurements that we have carried out. In case yes, then we have to correct for those correct the bearings whatever we have measured for that effect of local attraction. So that we'll try to talk about in the later parts of the course. Yeah, this is, let's say, a simple traverse what we are carrying out from point A to point B, point B to point C to point D, point D to point E, and again coming back from point E to point A. So when your starting point of your traversing and the end point of the traverse, if it is same, then we simply call it as what is closed traverse. In the last class, we said closed traverse is relatively the best traversing technique which we can adopt, because of that you can identify any errors that are existing in case of your measured values. In case if you identify any errors because of local attraction and so you can eliminate those errors by applying the necessary correction. Okay, so how do we understand whether your measured data is correct or not? Means, so some of your internal angles in that particular polygon, okay, some of your internal angles, if I am trying to refer to, let's say theta going from 1 to n, so some of your internal angles, if I am just trying to look at, so that value should come out to be equal to n minus 2 into 180. So if it is a triangle, let's say number of sides in the n here refers to number of sides in that particular triangle. So if it is a triangle, so n is nothing but 3, 3 minus 2 is 1, 1 into 180 is 180 degrees. Sum of internal angles in the case of triangle is 180. Likewise, if it is a square, so number of sides are 4, 4 minus 2 is 2, 2 into 180 is 360. So number of sum of internal angles in the case of your square, obviously it is 360. So likewise, for any other case, if you are interested in calculating, you can go ahead in calculating the same. So as already we have talked about what is the use of compass. Now let us try to go ahead in understanding what are the different types of compass that we are coming across with. Okay, so broadly we will come across with two different types of compass. One is said to be prismatic compass, the other is said to be what is called as surveyor's compass. So the purpose of both the compass is the same. It's nothing but both of them are going to be helping you in measuring the bearings of any line existing in the traverse with respect to your magnetic meridian. So this is a typical compass instrument, whatever we are seeing here. Okay, so to start with, I'll just try to help you out in understanding everything whatever we know regarding this particular compass instrument. Okay, this is what we call it as your cap, compass, prismatic compass box. Why do we call it as prismatic compass? Means here, if you can look at, you have a prism. Okay, I repeat, here you have a prism. The purpose of the prism here is to measure the readings, whatever the readings that you are getting on this graduated ring. I'll show you that graduated ring. So on that graduated ring, if I am required to take some measurements, so with the help of your prism, I can focus at that graduated ring accurately and I can measure how much is that bearing what I am trying to come across with. Okay, right. And let us just try to understand all that salient things which I have got for this particular prismatic compass. I have all of them listed in next subsequent slides. Okay, let me not worry about showing you each point and talking about all those points individually. Please focus on the instrument ones. As I told you, this is your prism. The purpose of the prism is to read the readings, whatever you have on what is called as a graduated ring. So you have a ring, you have a ring on which you have the angle readings represented going from 0 to 360 degrees in the case of your prismatic compass. Now, if you look at here you have some vertical members. These are nothing but we call them as sunglasses. Okay, so what is the purpose of sunglass? When you are trying to bisect the object, if your vision of bisection, if it is not proper, then you can try to focus your object with the help of what is called as this sunglasses. I hope you are able to see the device what I am trying to show you. And if what I am showing you here is not very clear, later on if you want, you can also just go through any of the YouTube videos where you will have a clear demonstration of each instruments available there. So if you want, you can please also verify there. And here in the next subsequent slides also regarding each of the component, information regarding that is very much clearly mentioned. Okay, so the purpose of this sunglass, what I am just trying to talk about here, you have a glass, if you can see. Okay, so the purpose of this glass, whenever you have an issue with your sunlight and the issues with regard to the bisection of the object which you have in the direction of that line. Okay, so in such case we'll be making use of these sunglasses to bisect your object. And now if you look at here, you have a kind of a member which is, if I close it, you could see inside your compass there is a difference. When this particular vein is closed, the circle, whatever you see here, I hope you can see a steel ring with graduated readings on it going from 0 to 360 degrees. Okay, where is that ring standing means, to that ring, if you look at, you have one member, vertical member connected, which we call it as, that vertical member, what is connecting that steel ring is what we call it as, that member is what is called as your needle, magnetic needle. And that magnetic needle is mounted to your graduated ring. Okay, so that graduated ring, what is it containing? Graduated ring is containing the divisions of 0 to 360 degrees. And when you close this, what is going to happen is, whenever you are going to be closing this, your so-called magnetic ring, which is suspended on a pivot. Pivot is nothing but it's a conical shaped member on which your magnetic needle is existing in a freely suspended state. Whenever you close that lever here, whenever you are closing this vein, so your magnetic needle, whatever is there in suspended state, if you see earlier, so you will be seeing that magnetic needle rotating. But once you close this, magnetic needle gets locked into your pivot, where you are preventing the damage to your pivot. So that if your magnetic needle is continuously rotating, there is a possibility that it can slip over the sharp pivot cross section. Okay, or otherwise sometimes you might have an issue with regard to the damage of that pivot head. If the damage, if there is an issue with damage of the pivot head, your magnetic needle is not going to be properly in a freely suspended state, orienting towards your magnetic north. Okay, so that's the reason we will try to lock it to prevent the damage of that particular pivot, and subsequently ensuring that your magnetic needle is going to be existing in a freely suspended state once you open this later on. And on top you have a glass. The purpose of this glass is to take the readings directly. If you want to look from the top, your glass can easily help you out in reading the readings from the top. Or otherwise through the prism, when I am trying to understand how my measurements are, then through the prism also I can try to focus at it, and accordingly I can take the readings. And if you can see another thing, you have a slit, vertical slit here. Okay, and that vertical slit, whatever we are having here, is what I'll call it as your eye vein. So through this slit, I can try to focus through your what is called as a prism to understand the readings, whatever are existing on your graduated ring, when this particular compass is oriented in the direction of the line for which you are trying to measure the bearing. Okay, and what else? Yeah, so here you have if you can see here, you have what is called as a thread or maybe a steel wire you will be finding. So the purpose of this thread or steel wire is to range your object, whatever is there along that survey line. Okay, and once you range the object, then it means that the orientation in which your compass is aligned is correct, which is in the direction of your traverse, and then the the bearings, whatever you are going to be measuring, are relatively measured accurately, because you are trying to focus your target. That means orienting your compass in the direction of that line for which you want to take your measurements. And here there is another thing what you could see, which we are calling it as your what you could see here is basically a glass or a mirror. Okay, so what is the purpose of this mirror is, whenever you have your focusing object, let's say I'm trying to measure the bearing of line A to B, where this compass instrument is placed at station A, and you have your line from station A oriented towards your station B, and I have a ranging rod which is placed at station B, and I'm trying to bisect. I'm just trying to rotate this surveyor compass, this prismatic compass, to align my compass direction to bisect your ranging rod which is there at point B, when the instrument is placed at your point A. Okay, so observer, the person who is carrying out this survey, is there at the instrument station. He is trying to rotate your compass to bisect your ranging rod which is there at the other end of that particular survey line, that is at station B. So for bisecting it through this particular slit here, whenever I see this slit here is exactly coinciding with your ranging rod, it means that the orientation of the compass in the direction of your survey line is correct. And once your orientation is correct, then you can look at the reading on this graduated ring through your prism, and you can try to say, okay, my survey line, what I am trying to look at, is having so and so bearing with respect to your magnetic north. In the freely suspended state, your magnetic needle, which is mounted on the graduated ring, okay, magnetic needle and graduated ring both are connected to each other. And once you are setting your instrument at your station A, then the direction what your needle is showing you is indicating what is called as your magnetic north. In my case here, the magnetic north direction is shown in this way, okay, towards this. Now, if my survey line is in this direction, then what I'll try to do, I'll start rotating my instrument like this, and I'll start bisecting my ranging rod which is there at the other end of the survey line through this slit here. Okay, so once the bisection is properly done like this, then I can try to see through your prism, and I can try to measure the reading. Yeah, my discussion was with regard to this particular glass. Why is this mirror there? The purpose of this mirror is, whenever you are trying to bisect any object, if the position of that object what you are trying to bisect, if it is lower than the position of your compass or higher than the position of your compass, then in such case, so you can make use of this mirror to ensure a proper bisection is getting done with the help of this mirror. You can orient the position of this mirror according to your requirement to understand, to watch through this particular mirror in case if your object is lower than the position of this, and I can try to understand how to locate the position of that particular object which is existing in the direction of your traverse, and then I can try to measure the bearing of that particular line. So these are some of those important things what I feel like telling you, and you can anyhow go through each of those points which are very clearly indicated there in order to give you a brief understanding about this complete prismatic compass. So what difference does it make in between the case of your prismatic compass and surveyor's compass means? In the case of the prismatic compass, if you look at your magnetic needle is connected to that of the graduated ring which has got the readings going from 0 to 360 degrees. Okay, so at the position of your Repeat, at the position of your eyepiece, when you are watching through the eyepiece, that is nothing but through the prism, you have the readings on this graduated ring inverted. Inverted in the sense, you will not be directly seeing the values if I am looking from the top, but the prism what is there here will read the inverted readings in the reverse way, and it will help you out in understanding the value accurately. If I am saying 120 is the angle or number what I could see, that 120 is not visible as like what I have represented. Rather, my 120 is going to be, so it's an inverted form is what I could see. And in the case of that inverted, from the top, if I am looking at, the readings are inverted, but through the prism, when I look at those values, because through the prism, your reflection of that inverted image is converted to the accurate image, and it is going to give you the reading of that particular angle of the survey line what you are trying to traverse. Okay. And one more, if you look at the bottom of this instrument, you have a base which can be fitted to what is called as a tripod. This what I am showing you here is a tripod. So to this tripod you have a vertical spindle. Okay, so to this vertical spindle you can fix this prismatic compass, and once the fixing of the prismatic compass is done, now exactly in the field wherever you want to set up this instrument, let's say I started saying that if I want to measure the bearing of line AB, if the instrument is to be set up at station A, so exactly at the position of that station A, I am going to be placing this leveling staff, I am going to be adjusting your tripod in a way that the center position of the tripod, I hope all of you are able to see how the orientation is done. The center position of the tripod should be exactly coinciding with the point of your station A. So how do I ensure whether your center position of this tripod is coinciding with the position of your survey station A? Means you have what is called as a plumb bob, or maybe simply you can take a piece of small stone which you can hold it here and leave it. You can leave that stone. So because of the effect of gravity, stone goes and falls at some point on the ground. Now try to check, where did the stone fall? Where was the exact position of your survey station A which you have marked on the ground? If your stone is going and falling on that particular exact place where you have marked the position of your survey station A, then your centering of the instrument is correct. Okay, so in case if they do not coincide, if your stone does not go and fall exactly on the point A which you have marked on the field, then you have to adjust your leveling staff legs according to your requirement, and you have to adjust the centering of this particular instrument. Ultimately, the center position of the instrument should coincide with the position of your survey station A. That's what is the objective. And second important thing, after ensuring the proper centering is done, sir, the height of the instrument is more, my height is less, I would find it difficult. So you have adjusting legs. The height of this instrument can be adjusted with some screw knobs. Okay, so according to your requirement of height, you can adjust the height of that particular tripod also, so that you can adjust your height of the instrument, which would give you the comfort in carrying out the measurements. Now, once the centering is done, the second objective what we will be looking at is leveling the instrument. Now, why do I need to level my instrument? In case if you are not properly leveling the instrument, the disadvantage what we will have is the inclination of your magnetic needle sometimes will have an effect. Okay, so instead of aligning your line like this, you would orient, if the compass position, instead of having it like this, if you have the compass position like this and if you align it like this, sometimes because of that inclination, you might get the bearing values which are inaccurate. Okay, so you have to properly ensure that your compass is in a proper level surface. Your compass is perfectly leveled. Level in the sense, it should be perfectly, let's say, horizontal. Okay, the surface of the compass or your glass of the compass, whatever I am just trying to understand. So it has to be properly horizontal. Now, how do I measure whether it is properly horizontal or not? With the naked eye, we will not be able to understand that. So sometimes what you can simply do is you can take a pencil or maybe a kind of a pen like this and place it on the surface of your glass. Okay, so once you place it on the surface of your glass, if you see that your pen is rolling from one point to the other point, it's not just placing only your pen only in one direction. You have to place your pen in multiple directions so that whether your leveling of the instrument is proper in all the respective directions. If you see that pen or pencil is rolling, it means that the instrument is not properly leveled. And we also have what is called as bubble tube. The purpose of that bubble tube is another accessory. The purpose of that bubble tube is to ensure that your instrument, whether it is to understand whether your instrument is properly leveled or not. Okay, so that in the case of prismatic compass, we don't have an inbuilt fitted bubble tube, but when it comes to the case of what is called as your surveyor's compass, we have what is called as an inbuilt bubble tube. If you can see, you have two bubble tubes which are oriented at 90 degrees to each other. Okay, look at those bubble tubes. Now, what is that bubble tube telling you? So at the center of each bubble tube, you have a bubble, air bubble. Okay, you have an air bubble. Now, when I say I am trying to level the position of my instrument, leveling the position of the instrument means the position of the bubble inside the bubble tubes should be exactly at the center. In case if the position of the bubble inside the bubble tube is exactly at the center, it means my leveling, whatever I have done for the instrument, is accurate. Okay, and one difference what we'll come across in the case of your prismatic compass to the surveyor's compass is, in the case of the prismatic compass, we have the readings on the graduated ring going from 0 to 360 degrees, but whereas in the case of your surveyor's compass, we have the readings oriented in the surveyor's compass going from 0 to 90 degrees, 90 to 0 degrees, 0 to 90 degrees, 90 to 0 degrees, if you are just trying to move in the clockwise direction. So that's how we will be seeing the readings. Okay, north to east, south to east, south to west, and north to west. Okay, north to east, 90 degrees, which is first quadrant. South to east, 90 degrees, maximally. South to east, it goes from 0 to 90 degrees, which means it is second quadrant. South to west, once again, maximally 0 to 90 degrees again, so which is third quadrant. And north to west, once again 0 to 90 degrees only, in between north to west, which is my fourth quadrant. So that's the difference in how you have your readings on your compass. Okay, and one more difference what we find is, in the case of the prismatic compass, we see your magnetic needle is connected to your ring, graduated ring. But in the case of your surveyor's compass, graduated ring is fixed to this box itself, the bottom of the box. Your magnetic needle is existing in a freely suspended state. Okay, so magnetic needle is only there in a freely suspended state without having any connectivity or any connection with your graduated ring. Okay, please do understand that. So I hope I have given certain required information to that of the extent to help you out in knowing what are the different accessories that are helpful for us in taking the measurements while carrying out your compass surveying. Okay, let me remove this. So once the removing part is done, then I am going to be closing it like this, and I'll keep it aside. So this is my tripod, which I can fold it and keep it aside. Right. So let us come back to our original discussion, what we were supposed to be talking about. So all this, whatever, please go through each of those points, whatever already a majority of them I have touched upon. In case if I have not touched upon with regard to any of the points, so please go through them. And anyhow, you have a schematic diagram which is clearly showing you all that whatever I was trying to talk about. Yeah. So all those points which I am trying to refer to. So you can look at this schematic diagram to understand what is each of those representing, what is the use of each of those representing, and so on. Okay. So while setting up your prismatic compass, or in the case of your surveyor's compass subsequently, which we'll try to touch upon in the next couple of slides. So what are certain adjustments that we are required to be making to ensure that your instrument is properly set at the position of your survey station from where you want to carry out your measurements? Okay. First adjustment what we are required to make is centering. Already we have talked about, to exactly understand the position where your instrument is set with respect to the position where the instrument was supposed to be set. Okay. So to understand that, we'll try to simply make use of a plumb bob, or we can simply take a piece of small stone and leave it. So wherever your stone piece fall, it indicates that the centering or center position of that instrument what you have set. And whether that center position of the instrument what you have set, whether it is coinciding with your exact instrument station where you were supposed to be setting it or not, you can check it. If not, then you are required to adjust it so that exact centering of the instrument will coincide with the position of your survey station, let's say A. And then once the centering is properly done, it's not only for these instruments, any instruments that we are going to be dealing with, first step is centering, second step is leveling. Okay. So, and the third step is focusing. So through your prism, you can start focusing at your object. And once your bisection of the object is done, then through that particular prism, try to take the readings on your graduated ring, and you can note down the readings of that particular bearing of the survey line, whatever you are measuring. So how do we observe the bearings of a line? So even in the case of your surveyor's compass, or maybe in the case of your prismatic compass. So how do we observe the bearings of a line? The angle, what I am just trying to measure? How do we do that? Okay. So let's just try to understand with some example. Let's say this is my survey station A, and this is a survey station B. In between these two survey stations, I have a survey line going from A to B, which I am calling it as your AB line. Now at survey station A, I have set my instrument, my prismatic compass, or maybe your surveyor's compass instrument is set. And once the instrument is set, let's say for example, if it is a prismatic compass, or it could be surveyor's compass. Let's say this is the direction of my magnetic north. Okay, this is the direction of my magnetic north. And what I'll just try to do is, my vane, this is your eyesight vane. Okay, so bisection vane. Whenever you are trying to bisect your object, which is coinciding with the cross slit hair, or your hair thread or hair which you can have here. Okay, object vane. This we call it as object vane. Okay. So when you are trying to focus the object at your survey station B, you might have fixed some ranging rod at station B. So what I'll just try to do is, from the position of the orientation of your instrument, so I'll start bisecting towards your object at B from the station A, and I'll just try to align my this slit to get coincided with the ranging rod which is there at your station B. So once this proper alignment is done, then through the prism, watch the reading on the graduated ring, which is exactly there at the position of the prism. Here, whatever the reading that we have, exactly at the position of this prism. So we'll be able to read that reading. So which indicates that from the magnetic north, I said this is the direction of my magnetic north. So from the magnetic north, at what angle of inclination this so-called line AB is existing in the clockwise direction. So always, whenever we are trying to measure the readings here, so we are trying to look at the angles which are measured in the case of your prismatic compass. Those angles are measured by looking at in the direction what is called as your clockwise direction. Okay, and we say that bearing whatever we are measured is nothing but something theta. And what will be the range of the theta value which will be generally coming across means it could be anywhere in between what is called as 0 to 360 degrees, because in the case of your prismatic compass, I told you that the angles whatever you find on the graduated ring varies from what is called as 0 degrees to that of your 360 degrees. But when it comes to the case of your what is called as your surveyor's compass, so as I told you, like your angles would at most vary in between what is called as 0 to 90 degrees only. But depending on the orientation, we say whether that angle orientation what we are trying to talk about is existing in between north to east or north to west or south to east or south to west. So in which direction the orientation of that 0 to 90 degrees is existing. Okay. So this kind of angular measurements, we call it as quadrantal bearing, because we are trying to measure those bearings with reference to that of the quadrants. Quadrants in the sense north to east quadrant, or maybe south to east quadrant, or south to west quadrant, or maybe your north to west quadrant. That's first quadrant, second, third, and fourth quadrants. That's how. But with respect to your directions of northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest, so you take the reference of those directions northeast, southwest. So with respect to that, in that quadrant we try to represent your bearing values in case if your survey line is falling in that particular quadrant. Now in the case of the other one where you have your angles which are measured in the clockwise direction, where those angles of the bearing varies anywhere in between 0 to 360 degrees, such kind of bearings is what we call it as whole circle bearings. So the word whole circle itself says it's a complete circle in which you are trying to measure the graduated ring. What you have is like a complete circle which has got the readings going from 0 to 360 degrees. Okay. So we'll try to talk about little more in detail about this whole circle bearing, how we measure that whole circle bearing value, how do we measure the quadrantal bearing value, how do we convert the whole circle bearing into quadrantal bearing, or how do we convert this quadrantal bearing into whole circle bearing. All that we'll just try to understand in next couple of slides which we come across with. Okay, that's how you'll be measuring or you'll be observing the bearing of any line which you are interested in finding out while carrying out your traverse. Okay, and the same thing whatever I have told you, like this is indicating you what is called as the magnetic north direction. You can see here initially the orientation of your the orientation of your graduated ring which has your magnetic needle connected. That magnetic needle and the graduated ring will not get rotated at all, because that is indicating you some standard direction. Now what is going to get changed? Only you are trying to rotate the position of your prism and the line of sight of bisecting the object. That orientation is only getting changed, whereas the orientation of your ring will not get rotated anywhere. It's standardly indicating the direction of your north. So if this is the direction of your north in this particular example what I am referring to, and if this is the direction in which you have your line AB bisected, example which I was trying to refer to, and now in the process of bisection my prism, the eyesight eye slit whatever I am trying to view is exactly at my elbow, and the bisecting slit is at this end of my compass, and through this eye slit when I focus my object, this is the orientation in which my line AB is existing, and through the prism what is there at this particular eye slit, I'll be looking at the reading on this graduated ring. If you see here, you'll be getting, okay, reading on the graduated ring shows that it starts from 0 and maybe somewhere here, let's say it is some 45 degrees, and exactly this line is coinciding with something what is 47 degrees. I'm just giving some number. Now if it is 47 degrees, what does it indicate? From my north direction at that corresponding instrument station A, when the instrument is set up at instrument station A, from this magnetic north, the orientation of the survey line A to B is there at an inclination of theta. Sir, you are showing me this angle somewhere as 47 degrees, but you are indicating this angle. Yes, This angle what I am measuring is nothing but this only. Okay, so which is equal to 47 degrees, for example, what I am referring to. So that's how, depending on how your orientation of the survey line is there at that instrument station, you can bisect the object which is there at the other end of the survey line, and you can try to understand what is the angle that your so and so survey line is making with respect to that particular instrument station from the standard magnetic north direction. Okay. So surveyor's compass is as similar to that of your prismatic compass, functioning, everything is same. But here in the case of surveyor's compass, you don't have anything called as a prism to read the readings on your graduated ring. But here in the case of surveyor's compass, directly from the top, I have a transparent glass. So from the top itself, I can easily understand what is the orientation or the position of the orientation of your reading. Okay, which is indicating you at what angle your so and so survey line is existing from the magnetic meridian. That's nothing but your reference magnetic north direction from which how much angle that particular survey line is making. So as I told you, in the case of your surveyor's compass, your needle is in a freely suspended state where that needle is not connected to what is called as your graduated ring. And in the case of surveyor's compass, the graduated ring, what we are trying to talk about, will contain what is called as your quadrantal bearings, very specifically indicated those values going from north to east 0 to 90 degrees, south to east going from 0 to 90 degrees, south to west, the values going from the values indicated from south to west going from 0 to 90 degrees, or north to west, the values going in this direction, that is 0 to 90 degrees from north to west. So all that indication you will be finding on it. So here also the same, we'll be first centering the instrument, next is leveling the instrument, and then we'll be observing the bearing in the case of your surveyor's compass directly by looking from the top through your transparent glass. But whereas in the case of your prismatic compass, we are looking at the bearing after focusing the object. Here also in the case of surveyor's compass also, we have to focus the object, and once the focusing is done, you can take the bearing. And there also in the prismatic compass, you have to focus the object. Once the proper focusing is done, through the prism, we measure the reading. That's it. So in a broader way, we have the difference between what is called as your prismatic compass to that of your surveyor's compass. So already I have talked about majorly what are those differences. So once you go through the lecture, or maybe once you go through that material, you can clearly understand like what are those specific differences that you come across with regard to each of that particular compass, what you are going to be using. So next is bearing. Now, what does the word bearing mean? Already we have talked the word bearing in the last class. So bearing is nothing but the measurement of an angle, or at what angle, we specifically angle, which angle are we referring here? It's the horizontal angle. Okay, so at what horizontal angle your so and so survey line is existing from the reference meridian. So that reference meridian, most commonly what we'll be trying to talk about is your magnetic meridian with respect to any of the instruments that we'll be using. So your magnetic meridian is going to be your reference direction. So with respect to that magnetic meridian direction, that's nothing but with respect to your magnetic north direction. So whatever the horizontal angle that you are measuring while bisecting any particular line in that traverse, so that angle is what we are calling it as bearing. So we have got different types of bearings. Okay, so we said true bearing, if that angle is measured with respect to true meridian, we call it as magnetic bearing. If the meridian with respect to which the angle is measured is magnetic meridian. If the bearing is measured with respect to grid meridian, we call it as grid bearing. If the bearing is measured with respect to arbitrary meridian, we call it as your arbitrary bearing. Okay. So sometimes whenever we try to talk about the orientation of what is called as your magnetic north and geographic north. Okay, so let me make it very clear. Geographic north is indicating the direction of your true meridian. Magnetic north is indicating the direction of your magnetic meridian. Will this geographic north and magnetic north directions coincides with each other? Not exactly. on the earth at different places, you will have the different orientation of your magnetic north and your geographic north. Magnetic north direction gets deviated with regard to that of your earth magnetic condition. Okay, whereas your geographic north is exactly indicating you the direction of a fixed reference, whereas your magnetic north is getting deviated, or the position of that magnetic north is slightly getting changed with regard to the position where I am trying to carry out my survey. There will be a slight deviation because of your earth magnetism. So because of the effect of the earth magnetism, depending on the position where you are trying to measure your readings, so whether you are nearer to the pole, whether you are nearer to the equator, depending on that, your orientation of your magnetic meridian will slightly get deviated. Okay, so please do understand. So magnetic north and your geographic north, they will not always coincide with each other. So they might coincide with each other at some particular points on the Earth's surface, but at different places, you might see a variation in the position of that direction indicated as geographic north and magnetic north directions. They will not be coinciding with each other. Say in case if they are not coinciding with each other, so the angle what is made between your geographic north and your magnetic north. So the angle between geographic north and your magnetic north is what we call it as magnetic declination. Otherwise, I can simply call it as declination. Okay. So the word, what does this declination mean? So the word declination, we'll try to talk about this word declination slightly in detail in the later part of this compass surveying topic. Okay. So this word declination is nothing but the difference in position of your magnetic north and your magnetic, your geographic north. Okay. So the difference, the angle what is getting formed between the directions of your magnetic north and geographic north, that angle between those geographic north and magnetic north directions is what we call it as your magnetic declination. So designation of bearings. So whatever the bearings that we are going to be talking about, so those bearings are going to be broadly represented in two different ways, in two different systems rather. So which we call it as whole circle bearing system and quadrantal bearing system. So whole circle bearing system means the angles whatever you are trying to measure, the bearings whatever you are measuring with respect to any particular survey line, those bearings are measured anywhere in between the angles 0 to 360 degrees in the clockwise direction, whereas your quadrantal bearings are measured with respect to your north and south directions as reference, going towards east or going towards your west, where the angle at most varies in between 0 to 90 degrees. In the case of your prismatic compass, your graduated ring, what you have on which the readings are represented is what is called as your whole circle bearing system. And in the case of your surveyor's compass, the angles which are indicated on your graduated ring, so those angle representation is what is called as your quadrantal bearing system. So in the case of whole circle bearing system, already I have talked about everything. Just a quick glance we'll try to have. The bearing of a line measured with respect to the magnetic meridian in the reference meridian is your magnetic meridian only. Okay. So that magnetic meridian in the clockwise direction, we are trying to measure the angle what your survey line is making, any line that you are trying to look at. So how much angle that line is making from your magnetic north, we are trying to measure. And in the clockwise direction, we are trying to represent that measured angle. So which goes anywhere in between 0 to 360 degrees. The quadrants basically starts from north, it goes to east, east to south, south to west, west to north. There also, if you want, you can look at the quadrants. Obviously, north as reference, 90 degrees. If I say I am moving, it means you are reaching to your east direction. Another 90 degrees, that means total 180 degrees from north. If I say, it means you are aligning towards your south direction. And another 90 degrees, it means from the north again, I am going by 270 degrees in the clockwise direction. I am aligning myself to what is called as my west direction. The line of sight is towards west. And one complete rotation, it means from north in the clockwise direction, if I say I am traveling 360 degrees, it means I am coming back to your north direction again. So that particular angle what you are measuring there is 360 degrees. Okay, so the quadrant starts from north and progresses in the clockwise direction. As the first quadrant angle what you will be seeing going from 0 to 90 degrees, second quadrant angle going from 90 to 180 degrees, third quadrant angles going from 180 to 270, and fourth quadrant angles going from 270 to 360 degrees. Okay, so this is how what we were trying to talk about. Let's say, for example, this is my instrument station. Instead of showing here, let me take an empty page. Let's say this is some survey station A. I just want to measure the bearings of this line AB, line AC, line AD, line AE. Okay, so I just want to understand what are the bearings of all these lines AB, AC, AD, AE. So what I have done is I have set my instrument, let's say prismatic compass is what I have set at the instrument station A. So with respect to the instrument positioned at A, I am trying to orient the direction of my object vane towards the direction of the ranging rod, which is fixed at station B, and then subsequently the ranging rod which is fixed at station C, and then to bisect the ranging rod which is fixed at the station D, and to bisect the ranging rod which is fixed at the station E. Okay, so let me start. This is my magnetic north direction. From the magnetic north, I'll try to orient my line of sight bisecting the ranging rod which is there at the station position B, and then from the magnetic north, whatever the angle that I'll be having here, or whatever the bearing that is measured with respect to the position of your bisected object at the station B, will tell you what is called as the bearing of the line AB. Let me write it as something theta 1. And likewise, I'll try to rotate in such a way that my line of sight gets coincided. I'll just try to rotate myself so that my line of sight gets coincided with the object or ranging rod which is placed at station C, and then I'll try to measure or understand how much is the angle this particular survey line is making from the reference magnetic north, which I'll write it as theta 2. Likewise, the position of your third survey line, I can understand by measuring this much angle, which I'm writing it as theta 3, and the position of your other survey line, once again, same in the clockwise direction I am moving for measuring that angle, which I am writing it as theta 4. Okay, so that's how you measure your angles in the case of your whole circle bearing system, in the case of your prismatic compass, because the prismatic compass contains what is called as this readings indicated on what is called as your whole circle bearing system, where the angle is going from 0 to 360 degrees. So as like already told you, like north to east, it means you are traveling by 90 degrees. Once again, once you go from east to south, that means in the second quadrant. So your angle by which you have traveled from reference north is 180. And then by the time you reach your west, the angle what you have traveled is 270. By the time you come back to your north again, so it means you are completing one revolution. It means it is 360 degrees. So in the case of whole circle bearing, whenever you are measuring the angle of any survey line, the angle of that particular survey line are measured always in this clockwise direction. By what angle I am trying to rotate in the clockwise direction, that angle is what we call it as your bearing of that particular line with respect to whole circle bearing system. Okay, so this is a graduated ring. What we were trying to talk about, whole circle bearing will contain the angles going from what is called as 0 to 360 degrees. 360 degrees, once again, is nothing but it is 0 degrees position. So coming to the quadrant bearing system, already I have told you, like the angles goes from in any quadrant, the angle representation is only in between what is called as 0 to 90 degrees. Okay, so if it is, let's say, if I have a case like this, once again, this is my survey station A. If I'm trying to measure the bearing of this line AB, or if I'm trying to measure the bearing of this line AC, or if I'm trying to measure the bearing of this line AD, or if I'm just trying to measure the bearing of this line AE. So first, I'll just try to understand what is the direction of my north, east, south, and west. Okay, this is my north direction, this is my east direction, this is my south direction, this is my west direction. Now, Story is same, the way how we carry out our survey, everything is same, but the way how we understand this angle. Okay. So this survey line AB is in which quadrant? It is in the first quadrant. So angle goes from where to where? North to east is what is that we represent in your quadrantal bearing for representing the survey line AB. So here I'll write down bearing of line AB is nothing but it is equal to, it is going from north to east, the angle is theta 1. At most, how much could be this value of theta 1? It will be anything in between 0 to 90 degrees only. Because you are restricting yourself from north to east. North to east, how much would be the angle? It's only 90 degrees. Okay, next. What is the angle or what is the bearing of your survey line AC? Now, if I am just trying to talk about the bearing of your survey line AC, we will not start once again from your reference north to understand what is that angle. So, from where do we go? We understand this survey line AC is in second quadrant. When your survey line is in the second quadrant, the bearing what we represent is going from south to east representation. From south as reference line, you go on to take the reading towards your east. That angle is what we write it as theta 2. Now, how do we write down the bearing of line AC? So, bearing of line AC. Which bearing am I trying to talk about? All these bearings which I am trying to talk about here are quadrantal bearings. Okay. So, from where to where I am trying to go on to measure my reading? From south towards east I am going. How much is the angle? That is theta 2. So, when I am measuring the value from south direction towards east, the angle measured there is theta 2, which I am calling it as here bearing of the line, quadrantal bearing of the line AC. Likewise, quadrantal bearing of line AD. So I can say AD line is in my third quadrant. In the case of the third quadrant, how do we write down the quadrantal bearing going? So this angle, from either we take south as reference or either we take north as reference while taking your measurements of quadrantal bearings. So this AD line is nearer to your south direction. Okay, so if it is nearer to the south direction, then the measured angle or the angle what I am measuring is with respect to the south direction. This is theta 3. So how do I write down? From south towards west, the angle is theta 3. Likewise, the quadrantal bearing of line AE. AE line, what I am trying to look at is towards your north direction, is nearer to the north direction or nearer to the south direction. It is nearer to the north direction. It means in the fourth quadrant. Any line, any survey line which is in the first and fourth quadrant are nearer to your north direction. Any line which is in the second and third quadrant, obviously they are nearer to your south direction. Nearer in the sense, least angle, what it forms. Will it form, will that survey line will form a least angle with the north as direction or with the south as your direction. So that is what we consider as your reference direction from which you are measuring the angle. Now AE line is in the fourth quadrant. So fourth quadrant means it's the nearest direction to your north. So from north towards west, that angle is there. Okay, so from the north towards your west, that angle is there, which I am saying as something theta 4 angle. So that is how we write down your quadrantal bearing of survey line AB or AC or AD or AE, and that's how we represent your quadrantal bearings. Okay, so whereas in your previous case of whole circle bearing, if I am trying to represent your whole circle bearing of line AB, every time in the clockwise direction only, for each of the survey line, every time in the clockwise direction only, we are trying to measure the bearing value, taking north only as my reference. But in the case of your quadrantal bearing, we say either north or south as your reference. We are trying to understand the bearing of that particular line. Okay, either moving towards your east or moving towards your west. So that's how we try to carry out the measurement of bearings in the case of your quadrant bearing system.